Gospel Sports Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Zay, along with my guy, King Ron. We got the dynamic duo today bringing you the truth unapologetically as we see it. We were off last week, spending a little bit of time with the ladies. You know, the ladies in our lives had to make sure we took care of Valentine's Day, as I'm sure most of y'all did as well. But we're going to make sure that you get all the information that you need to know and make sure that you're entertained this week. Make sure that you follow us on YouTube at the Gospel STP and on all major podcasting platforms. If you need to get any information to us, get it to the Gospel STP at gmail.com. Got a very entertaining show for you today. We're going to talk about what's going on this week in the wonderful world of sports, Super Bowl reactions, what's next for San Fran and Kansas City. We're also got a little bit of conversation in there about what's going on with the NBA All-Star Weekend. So let's hop right into it. Got a lot going on this week. Prognostications, if you will, as far as what's going to happen in the NFL with some of the free agents, some moves going to be made, trades, things of that nature, draft picks that are going to happen here over the next couple of months. But one of the things that I've heard as of late is Russell Wilson. It's odds-on favorite now to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. A little bit ago, it was Fields, who's now the odds-on favorite for Atlanta. So things are changing a little bit. I always pay attention to Vegas. They tend to know a little bit of information before any of us do. So we have two quarterbacks that are now, it looks as if Fields is going to be traded, and it looks as if Russell Wilson is either going to be traded or possibly cut from Denver, and Pittsburgh is going to pick them up. But we have two guys on the move that did relatively well last year in the realm of NFL, also in the realm of fantasy. A lot of people don't realize this, but Russell Wilson was top 10 in most of the major quarterback stats. What derailed Denver more than anything was the defense, which is normal. That's kind of the opposite of what you normally see with Denver. With Fields, if he goes to Atlanta, I mean, speed is going to be an issue, and they're really a quarterback away from taking over that NFC South division. So, what are your thoughts as far as landing spots if this is to be true, as far as Russell Wilson ending up in Pitt and Fields ending up in Atlanta?
I'm not the biggest Russell Wilson fan.
Okay.
I got him. I called him Mr. Limited. That's a nickname that I gave him years ago. But he's also, I guess, like you said, not the worst quarterback. Also, either. Take a look at Pittsburgh, who their quarterback play was atrocious this year. I think he'll be a step up from that for sure.
Yeah,
I don't think it. I don't think it puts them over the hump. Of course, I really don't think nobody's thinking that. Well, that's just what my mind frame is. It just depends on how Pittsburgh acquires him. If he gets cut, yeah, for sure go all in for it. But if it's like a trade type thing, I wouldn't touch it with the contract size and everything. But let's just say for he does get cut. Let's just say that scenario, he does get cut. I think Pittsburgh picks him up. If they do, I don't think it moves the needle too much. I still like the Ravens, still like the Bengals, and maybe even the Browns a little bit over them. Like it doesn't change anything for me, but they do play that division tough. They beat the Bengals with Joe Burrow earlier this year, even though Joe Burrow had the calf. They beat them. They beat Lamar Jackson this year. So, I mean, Tomlin, they have him ready. It's an upgrade for what they got. So if they can get him on, if he gets released and they acquire him, I think it's a step up from the quarterbacks that they have in the room right now, though.
I think the biggest thing with Russell Wilson is he can hold it in the road. What they were able to do with Rudolph, I mean, Wilson's way better than Rudolph. He's definitely way better than Kenny Pickett. And also, if you look at what he did in Denver, he did that with one wide receiver, with Sutton. I'm not the biggest fan of their number two wide receiver, Buddy from Alabama. I can't even think of his name right now.
Judy.
But yeah, there you go. Judy has been very disappointed in my humble opinion. Their second best wide receiver would have been Tim Patrick. He got hurt, like I want to say either in preseason or just before preseason started.
Yeah.
So, and then also their starting tight end got hurt as well. Their starting running back was coming off of an injury and he wasn't quite right until several weeks into the season. So, to have that offense doing what he had them doing and to be top 10 in most of the quarterback stats, By end of the year. He was top 5, for a good bit of the year, but getting that upgrade at the wide receiver position, also getting a little bit more consistency as far as defense and the run game is concerned. I mean, Pittsburgh hasn't had a losing season without a good quarterback since Big Ben. So I could see him being a little bit more confident as well, because Pittsburgh isn't one of those teams that's like a fly by night team. They're a little bit more stable. As long as you can get out there and show something, they're going to stand by you. And Wilson, I think he'll go back to the days of Seattle, with having that upgrade at defense. He won't feel as if the team is on his shoulders by himself. Now, as far as Atlanta is concerned, my thing is, you don't have to be the best passer of the ball to be able to take advantage of what they have going on. And when you have the running ability of Fields and the speed of Fields, and then you have Bijan at running back, you have London at wide receiver, and then they're probably going to pick up another wide receiver in the offseason as well. They also have your boy Tyler Algier, who actually had better stats his rookie year. This is his sophomore year that just went by. He had better stats his rookie year than what Bijan had in his. So they have a stable back there as far as running backs are concerned. So also much better offensive line than Chicago right now. So I think you can see the best version of Fields in Atlanta. And he'd also be going home. Have a better coordinator, a more seasoned offensive coordinator as well, and a guy who is a defensive guy, a head coach, so he won't have to put up so many points to win games because their defense was already good. But given what Raheem Morris can make out of a defense that's lackluster, if you take a defense that actually has a few pieces already and add him to it, I mean, Atlanta can go from, you know, not making the playoffs to been a factor in the playoffs in one off season, just depending on how things go. But what's your opinion as far as Justin Fields is concerned?
Kind of think that's a great situation for them. They go into a place to where they definitely need a quarterback for sure. Ritter's not the answer. And the weapons that you alluded to earlier, Pitts, Drake London, Bijan, and I think this coordinator will utilize Bijan like he's supposed to, like unlike Arthur Smith did. And
Right.
and also too, like, and I'm sure you know this too, but for a lot of listeners out there, when you have in today's game for sure, when you have that threat of the running quarterback, that actually opens more lanes for the running back, because now it's a threat
Absolutely.
that some people have to stay home, etc. So it's going to help out Bijan, and it just, so like I said, the rotation that they have. Algier hasn't done anything to, even though Bijan is garnered as a more superior talent wise, like, but he has a place in the offense. So the backfield is nice. He was on a podcast this morning, and they asked him about, where do you want to go, Chicago or whatever. He said, I love Chicago, but it's a business. So, and they asked him about Atlanta, and he was like, yeah, they got the weapons over there. Him and Kyle Pitts apparently are super close off the field, and he said,
Okay.
if they just get one more receiver, we going. So he already, to me, already kind of scoping it out, like, okay, well, I got John, I got Kyle, I got Drake London, and they get one more receiver there in the next spot. So I think it's a perfect spot for him. I think so.
I heard this is just scuttlebutt, but they were saying like it's the tale of the generation, right? So whenever anyone gets upset, they go and take everything down off of their social media page, and I guess it's their way of throwing the tantrum, whatever, saying they, upset about the situation. But they were saying that he took down all the Chicago stuff, and he just recently followed all the Atlanta players. So I don't know if that's his way of saying that that's where he think he may end up, or that's who's kind of, between what he did and what Vegas is saying, it's kind of connecting the dots there that Atlanta may be the team that's willing to, make the move. But, just so we're on the same page, whoever gives up the most for him is where he will go.
Oh, yeah.
Because the GM
Yeah.
don't care nothing about where he want to be or what his hometown is or none of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They don't
whoever's
care
willing to
that at
give
all.
up the most, and it may even be a situation to whereas after you have the combine and things of that nature, maybe not as many quarterbacks show up at the combine as people are kind of having in their mind's eye as being available, and then you see that Fields kind of escalates a little bit as saying, well, okay, well, I know he's probably going to be better than that guy that couldn't do it,
Yeah.
when the heat was on. So you got that too. A couple other people that are making moves, are possibly making moves. You got the Titans debating on whether or not DeAndre Hopkins is going to be in their future. I don't see why you wouldn't do that unless, the new OC came from the Bengals. Vander was saying a couple of weeks ago that he could see Higgins possibly ending up there, or even Boyd for that matter. Both of them, from the Bengals, both of them are free agents. I don't see Boyd taking over that number one wide receiver spot, but Higgins could possibly, if he ends up with the Titans, I could see that being a reason why they may let Hopkins go. Outside of that, it's not like you're paying him very much, so I don't really understand why you would debate letting him go, especially because he still got another year on the contract, so you don't even have to figure out the money part. It ain't like everybody banging on the door to go to Tennessee, so you're not gonna really have, all that much money to spend on a high price name or whatever the case may be. Um, but yeah, do you believe that Hopkins ends up staying in Tennessee, or is this just kind of a, wait and see based on the fact that the new head coach could possibly bring in his own guy from Cincinnati? Or honestly, I say you go with Hopkins and Higgins if you can get them, or Hopkins and Tyler Boyd if you can get them both, because the guy that came in year before last, I can't
Burks.
remember these people's names tonight.
I think
What's your
Burks.
yeah, yeah, Traylon Burks. He can't stay healthy. Like,
Yeah.
maybe that can change in the course of a year, but he's just not been doing it as of late. And it's been various injuries, not just one nagging injury. So, it could go away this year, but he hasn't shown himself to be the guy. So what do you think about their wide receiving core prognosis going forward?
I think it's you should get rid of them. Not necessarily you should get rid of them, but if you do get rid of DeAndre Hopkins, I think you get rid of them after you acquire at least a number one. Because what you don't want to do also too is you don't want to like you have Will Levis there. You want to see how he progresses. So if you take away his best weapon, are you really getting a good read on what type of person he is? Or, you know, a lot of quarterbacks take off like that because a great scenario like Josh Allen, he wasn't Josh Allen until Stephon Diggs got there. Like the
Facts.
talent was there and everything, but he didn't take off until like somebody like Stephon Diggs get there. Not trying to say Hopkins is on the level of what Diggs was at that time, but if you want to gauge what he is, keep him unless he becomes a problem. Because you also don't want to cloud your quarterback with that also too. Like if Hopkins is like, hey man, I want to get out of here. Like I want to win. Then maybe you think about moving him. But outside of that, if he doesn't do that, I don't think you move him until you bring in somebody so you can help the development of Will Levis in the future.
You know, that's a fair point because there were a few times last year that they seemed to kind of be going back and forth. I don't know if that was just you know, a normal quarterback wide receiver dust up type of a deal, or if they have an issue. So that's a good point. That could be a determining factor whether or not the quarterback is actually vying for him, or if he's saying, "Hey, we need to get somebody else in the building." Because I'm sure that's a conversation that the new head coach and the quarterback are going to have as well. Um,
For
the
sure.
new odds-on favorite for Baltimore, their running back position is Derrick Henry. I feel like Baltimore should have probably made that move this season, and things could have possibly changed as far as how far they got this season. But if you put Derrick Henry in a situation to where you have the best mobile quarterback in the league and a ground and pound guy like Henry, that's trouble for everybody else in the league. I mean, they've been a stout running game with guys, I'm like, journeymen like Gus Edwards. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like if you get a Henry in that system, can you imagine what he would do in comparison to what a Gus Edwards has done? So, I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like they should have done that this year, but I can also understand why you would wait to try to get him for free versus having to give up assets to go after him. But if he does end up in Baltimore, how favorably does this match up for them going forward? Do you think that could have changed anything this year when they were going up against your squad, Kansas City?
I think as of constructed, and if you get we know that it may not be the Derrick Henry it was 3, 4 years ago, but if you can get the same Derrick Henry of last year because he doesn't have to carry the team as much,
Mm-hmm.
I think as of the team's constructed now, if like say if that trade happened, say if that they released him and they acquired him tomorrow, I put them as the favorite as of and coming out the AFC as of right now. Because if you look in the playoff game, they got away from the run. They only ran the ball like 6 times or whatever. And watching the inside the NFL thing, I kind of love to watch that regardless if it's my team or not. And what deterred them away from it was we ran like a big bear front. The first time all year that we run all 4 of our linebackers, dropped their safety down, and our biggest 4 defensive linemen. So they felt like they couldn't run the ball
Right.
on that front. But if you have a running back that maybe can break a tackle or two, you may say, hey, we're going to turn around and hand it to him anyway. Like we may wear him down. We may get him to come out of it, anything. So I think that would help a lot. And this depends on the move that we would make after that. But as if the team of the Ravens are constructed now, and you put Derrick Henry on it, and they were the favorite this year without Derrick Henry with us, So I don't see why they wouldn't be the favorite as of all the teams being constructed are they are right now. I don't see why they wouldn't. I think that helps them out a lot.
And don't mess around, and Kansas City ends up not being able to pay Snead and Chris Jones.
Yeah.
And if Chris Jones ain't in that middle, and you have Henry as the guy there, that's going to be an issue. Um,
Yeah.
and I can see Kansas City and Baltimore kind of being the two that are going at it again in the AFC this coming year. And we'll talk a little bit about some of the moves that Kansas City may end up making and how that's going to affect things going forward in just a couple minutes. But yeah, good call on that one. Chris Young, he is excuse me, Chase Young. He's projected right now as the odds-on favorite going to Atlanta. So that Atlanta's trying to make several moves right now. We'll see how that ends up working out, but I can definitely see San Fran not ponying up the money necessary to hang on to him. He has been often injured, and they kind of put a few things out there leading up to the Super Bowl that they weren't necessarily satisfied with his level of activity, if that makes sense. So I can definitely see him, going to greener pastures. Whether or not that move is going to be predicated upon whether or not they get Fields, which they would have to pay Fields almost immediately. So that can possibly hinder that move. It may be a either or. They may be able to have enough money to get both. I know the salary cap is going up to 250 million this year. So, you know, as long as you can kind of get them in and make it a favorable type of setup, I can see them possibly going after both, but we'll see where Young ends up. Last bit of news, I saw this today. Justin Jefferson is currently asking for 30 mil plus as far as this extension is concerned with the Minnesota Vikings. This is going to be an interesting scenario because he's also indicating that not only does he want 30 mil plus, but whether or not he actually signs an extension is going to be predicated upon the quarterback situation. The issue with this, you can't have a top-notch quarterback and get paid quarterback money. On top of that, they would either have to go the rookie route and hope for the best, or they would end up having to pay Cousins to come back, and Cousins is never taking any shorts. I mean, Cousins has actually gotten paid more money than most quarterbacks because he keeps betting on himself and being more than happy with taking the franchise tag or taking a 2-year deal and then getting another 2-year deal after that, maxing out his money for those 2 years. So the other issue with Jefferson is if you pay him that much, you're pretty much telling the other players on the team, most of y'all gonna end up somewhere else because we can't pay him and a quarterback and all of y'all. So do we see Jefferson remaining in Minnesota? Is he one of those players where you got to figure out his money and then you kind of do whatever you can do everywhere else? Or, I mean, honestly, this would be a team that, based on the fact that you don't have to pay Fields nearly as much as that you would have to pay most other quarterbacks, this would be a team that I would try to get in that race, giving up, maybe a second this year, a fourth next year, try to bring Fields my way and pay him a lot less money than what you would end up paying Cousins. But what do you think about this Justin Jefferson news?
I think if Justin Jefferson, of course, we all know he's the talent of what he is. I think he's the best receiver in football, in my opinion. I think he's the best wide receiver in football. Well, you can argue Tyreek Hill too, because Tyreek is, well, I'll put him at least 1 and 2.
But
At
Tyreek
least
done
one
already
or
been
two.
paid though, so but yeah. I get you.
So if I kind of think the route that they should take, because they should take, is maybe try to move up in the draft and get a younger quarterback. Because I look at it like this.
Like a Penix Jr.?
Yeah, any of those young guys, don't try to move up too much, because you're not going to get, Caleb may not get made.
Right.
So not in like the top 7, 8 like that, but try to move somewhere decent in there, because you can actually, I think when Joshua Dobbs was there, and he played well for a little bit or whatever, like you can get somebody that's in that realm, like Penix, that can run and throw, but more talented than them. I think you still
JJ McCarthy from
Michigan.
From Michigan.
Yeah, I like him too. So if you
could
can
be
grab one of those, because I don't see them winning a champion. Like, I don't see them winning the championship or beating any of these other guys. That's the Lions are going to run a division for a while. I like the Packers. They came on a little bit stronger. They pretty much the only team that you definitely know that they're better than in the division is the Bears. So I don't think bringing Kirk Cousins back.
And that's depending on what the Bears do this offseason too, because they might not be better than them anymore.
So I don't see bringing both of them back as championship moves. So I would gamble on, getting rid of Kirk, so you don't tie that money up there. You already got Jordan Addison to pair with Justin Jefferson. So you got 2 young guys. Get a nice young quarterback and try to get a nucleus there and take some of the money and maybe spread it out. Like, you may don't lose Danielle Hunter, because if you pay Justin Jefferson, Danielle Hunter, he's going to be out of there. So maybe you beef up around the defense. If you don't like your running back situation, being at Cook left, and you don't like Madison or those guys, maybe draft a guy, bring somebody in there. But the route I would take is I would pay Jefferson. Don't let him get out of the building, and figure out the quarterback route if they can move up to get a younger receiver. Because even if you pay Kirk Cousins, what was that, still 6, 7 seed at best, not trying to say people can't have great years, but you still tied up all this money for the 6, 7 seed for the most part. So I'll take the other route. Try to get a young quarterback like a Penix, put that money someplace else, and try to help the team out.
Love it. That'll pretty much wrap up the news and what's going on this week. Let's go ahead and move into our Super Bowl reactions. What went wrong for San Fran?
Well, since it's Super Bowl reactions, I got
Yeah.
Right? Hold up.
Let me give you the floor for a minute. Let me give you the floor.
Let's pop one. That's what we had to do. That's what we had to do right quick. What went wrong for San Fran, right? And this is, like I said, I want everyone, if you have time, if you haven't watched it, YouTube it, go watch Inside the NFL mic'd up. Like, then take like a 40-minute video on YouTube. And it's the players, the first thing was discipline to me.
Okay.
Like, it was amazingly shocking of how the little things cost the 49ers that game. Like outside of Patty being Patty, whenever he figures you out, and I said this on this show before, the first time we talked about the Super Bowl, I said, listen, we only let one team get over 24 points a game the entire season. I said, you're going to have to at least get to 24. Then the day of the game, I said, you got to get more than 20. They got more than 20. They got 22, so I was kind of like in the realm. I said, I don't believe that they can score that much because of how they're built and how our defense is built. Mm-hmm. Like, their receivers are dynamic, but I don't think I'm going to put it. I got the best 1-2 cornerback combo in the league. So at best, you're going to win some, lose some. They're not going to dominate that much. I took a look at Kittle's playoff record, a blind resume stat. With the same amount of games, Marquez Valdez-Scantling has better playoff numbers than George Kittle had. Even if you go look at the first Super Bowl, he had like 2 catches to 48 yards. So I'm like, he does good, but I don't know. I said Christian McCaffrey is going to have a Terrell Davis type day for them to win the game. And a lot of 49ers faithful are going to hate me of this, because they love Brock Purdy. But the reason, and I like him too, I'll be the first to tell you, I think he's an upgrade over Jimmy G, of course, right?
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. No doubt.
But the gap isn't as wide as you think, in my opinion. Not as wide as you think. If you ask me 10 times out of 10, I want Purdy over Jimmy G. But I
Well,
take a
the
look
thing with
at,
Jimmy G is he was just never healthy. So that you couldn't depend on him was his issue more than anything.
and it's a sample size of about 30 games now to where you can put blind resume to both of them together, and their numbers almost are similar. And Brock Purdy has the better supporting cast than Jimmy G. You froze. Can you hear me? Okay, I see you now.
Yep.
Yeah. So Jimmy G didn't have Brandon Ayuk or Christian McCaffrey, but for 4 games. And if you look at, it's a small sample, but if you look at the 4-game sample, his numbers are almost identical to what Brock Purdy numbers are. And even if before that, the only thing Brock Purdy has over him in that amount of games play span that they play was quarterback rating and less interceptions. And I'll give him the less interception, but he got a better supporting cast. But it was a lot of plays that Brock Purdy didn't play bad, but in order to beat Mahomes, your quarterback, like, well, he didn't play bad. No, you got to go win the game. They had, of course, the punt messed him up. The fumble punt that we scored on the very next play. That to me, that kind of changed the tide in the game. But I still feel like even if we didn't score like right on that play, my next point to this is the biggest turning point in the game for me outside of the punt was when Mahomes threw the interception. They were up 10-3 at their 40-yard line. So you only need 10, 15 yards to get a field goal. 3 straight possessions, 3 and out after that. Out of 9 plays, they only ran the ball once. So even when we was on the show, I said, we talking about a coach that is notorious for not managing the game correctly in certain situations.
Yep.
And he didn't do that. Also, I tell a lot of 49ers fans, I'm not talking about, even though the touchdown that he missed to Debo, he was getting pressured on it, right? But it was only like a 27, 30-yard throw. He didn't have to throw it as hard, but I ain't going to kill him for that one. The one I'm going to kill him about, because everybody always say, oh, Jimmy G missing Emmanuel Sanders in the, what's name? He had him wide open and he missed him. They killed Jimmy G for that. On the play that Brandon Ayuk routed up with Jerry Sneed, like I ain't never seen nobody route him up before ever. And it's a for sure touchdown. And he threw the ball dead out of bounds. I didn't hear a lot of, oh, Brock missed that one because they like Brock more than they like Jimmy G. But what cost them the game was
expectations too. Expectations are normally where disappointment starts, and because the expectation was higher for Jimmy G than what it is for Mr. Irrelevant, I think you let him live on a few of those throws, because it's like, man, look, if it wasn't for you, I don't know where we'd be right now. So I'm glad they went ahead and selected you with that last pick. Because other than that, we'd have Sam Darnold at the helm. So I think that's why they let him live with a couple of those, mistakes and things of that nature. But let me ask you this: as far as the defense was concerned, now I kind of feel like Steve Wilks was scapegoated, because going into the third quarter, it was a 10-3 game. So this wasn't an issue with defense; it was an issue with offense, and not only that, it was an issue from the side of the ball and from the coach that, as you just forestated, is notorious with getting to the big game and then forgetting how he got there. So how do you feel about San Fran's defense, that whole Steve Wilks situation? And I'll go ahead and lump this question in too. If Kyle Shanahan can't get any better, is now the time for San Fran to move on from him? Or do they just accept the fact that when he gets to the big game, he just probably not going to win it?
I think the Steve Wilks thing, to be honest with you, I don't think he was scapegoated that much, because if you take, even though, I mean, and it kind of gonna sound weird because they gave up the 3rd fewest points in the league. So you be like, well, whatever problems you say he had, they still only gave it the 3rd. Like with the Ravens first, the Chiefs second, them 3rd as far as points given up on defense. But in situations, a lot of situations where you look at, like he called I'm I know he has way more of vast knowledge of football knowledge than I have. And I'm like, yo, I'm not calling that. I'm not calling zero blitz right there, or I'm not dropping everybody back to where at one point in the game, Kyle Shanahan called a timeout. We're like, no, bro, we not running that. Yeah, like, didn't you see the last play? You just ran the same defense. And you see what we did on the, like, no, timeout. I think it's the decision making did it. And one thing I was hearing rumblings about too is the players love D'Amico so much.
Mm-hmm.
When he came in, they didn't mind him changing the strategy. It was like the relationships with him. Like they were like, yo,
I
okay,
got you.
so people were like, yo, why are we doing that? And he wanted them, oh, because this is how I want to do it type thing. Like, let's go do it. Like, and when it's not working, sometimes people are like, we're gonna go do it, but I mean, can we at least know why we doing it? Like, that's it. Like, we just want to know, like, that type thing. So I heard the
He
players and
old
stuff
school instead of
didn't get it. Yeah,
relatable with the I
yeah,
get where you're coming from with that.
yeah. So
But do you think that Shanahan can get any better? And if he can't, does San Francisco just accept the fact that, you know, they'll get to the playoffs and not get over the hump? Well, because it just don't feel like it's in the cards for Shanahan to be able to get much better than where he is right now. And other teams are going to get better. So it's more likely that they fall to the pack than they stay on top. So how do we feel about Shanahan going forward?
I'm I still have a little hope for him because I have a coach to where at one point Andy Reid was giving some of these same criticisms,
Huh.
not by play calling, but his time management was horrible at one point. Like the way he would use timeouts, wouldn't use them and stuff, whatever. Like they would kill him, and they were like, "Yo, in the Super Bowl against y'all, the Patriots, it was like it was some timeout discrepancies. Like even when he first came to us, when we had Alex Smith, we was like, "Yo, his that old time management thing rearing his head again." So he kind of got over. Now you can also say too, you got a generational quarterback, so that may cover
Yeah.
up a lot of the stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that happens, but with Shanahan, I'm still gonna give him a little bit of hope. I don't think he gets any better per se, but then because you got to look at it too. Even though he put some mistakes in it, his Super Bowl losses, notable Super Bowl losses, is to the GOAT, and then people who say it's probably gonna be the GOAT or challenge the GOAT. Which, uh, but yeah, he got to learn some play calling. I think he needs another strong person on his like a being that he's
Okay.
close with to where
Yeah.
you'd be
Yeah.
like, hey, no, hey, listen, let's not just run that. This, why we get away from the run or something like maybe somebody that he gonna listen to.
The only reason that wouldn't work though is because I feel like he's too tied to his offense to let another guy come in who is going to run the offense the way I think they would butt heads, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah, I
Um,
agree with that. But he can't
he's more
help.
likely to let the defensive guy kind of almost do what he want to do
Yeah,
versus letting the offensive guy change just about because it's like the offense is fine until it needs to play better. Like the offense was great up until time for the Super Bowl. Like
yeah,
if you had just done what you normally do, like why not lean on the best running back in football versus leaning on Mr. Irrelevant? Like I don't it's
yeah.
not like the
I
game was
agree.
out of hand. You were ahead.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you run the football? It's like he just forgot fundamentals. That was the thing that killed me about the whole situation. But let's move over to Kansas City now. This is my thing with Kansas City. Well, one thing I'll say is, as of right now, they're one of the younger teams in the league, and they opened up quite a bit of money by not signing Tyreek Hill back. And the fact that several people on their rookie contracts are going to open it up that they can kind of go head hunting and bring in veterans that are just ring shopping, sign them to a 1 or 2 year deal. And if they can win the Super Bowl this year without having the help of those mercenaries, if you will,
Yeah.
how does the rest of the league attempt to compete as long as Andy and Patty are both there? Like I don't see the team being any worse. Not that they were bad this year. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but I don't see them being any worse in the years to come than they were this year. This was the reset, quote unquote, reload, rebuild year. What is everybody else gonna do?
I think they need to cross their fingers and hope that for some odd reason we lose Chris Jones and L'Jarius Sneed. I think that's the formula for you to say, okay, well,
Okay.
there's a reason why we shouldn't, barring injury, of course. There's like to think of a reason why we wouldn't be back there because our receiver room won't look like it looked last year for sure.
Nah,
I'm willing to bet
definitely not.
anything on that. Like it's gonna up the receiver room is gonna upgrade. We're gonna help Trav out because Trav is gonna be another year older. I
Yeah.
love Pacheco. I think we're gonna bring another running back there too. So our offense is gonna, which was the one dragging the tail this year, is gonna pick up. So I think that's the only hope. I really think that there is a real possibility that I even think that Snead won't be back there next year. I don't see no possibility of Chris Jones not coming back this year. I think we
Okay.
realized for sure, like, listen, we have to pay him. Like I was telling somebody the other day, we don't have 3 Super Bowl rings if it ain't for him. If it ain't for him, we don't have 3. I don't think so. So
I can agree with that.
so now, and the way he wrecked the game a little bit, he didn't have not one sack, but every time you turned around in the big plays, he's hurrying somebody or so I think Snead is going to be gone. Even though they raised the
Okay.
cap, I just don't see us no way of signing Snead back at all. But
Well, the thing with Snead, well, with cornerbacks in general, for that particular team, you found Snead. You found
yeah,
McDuffie. I mean, these weren't highly
yeah,
touted guys. Coming out of the draft or whatever the case may be. You found those guys. You haven't been able to find a defensive lineman like Chris Jones.
yeah,
So that's the reason why I can see, not to mention the fact that it's a lot easier to get a cornerback in free agency, and you'll have the money, and you'll have some guys that are ring hunting. In worst case scenario, you got guys that haven't even been regular appearances in the playoffs. They know they're
yeah,
gonna get that minimally if they go to Kansas City. So
yeah,
you're gonna have
true.
several guys that are willing to take a pay cut. And that's what I mean by that mercenary situation. You're gonna have wide receivers and cornerbacks that are gonna be willing to, hell, you might even be able to get entice Aaron Donald to play a year or two
If
with
he got
Kansas
bought out,
City. Just
I'd take
I'm
it.
just saying, like there are a
Yeah,
few scenarios out there where you can get some guys. But now let me ask you this: Andy Reid is now one of a few coaches to have 3 or more Super Bowl rings. Let me get the. We have Andy Reid with 3, Joe Gibbs with 3, Bill Walsh with 3, Chuck Noll with 4, and Bill Belichick with 6. Now, my thing with Andy Reid is, unlike Bill Belichick, yes, Bill has more rings, but if you look at the amount of time that Bill has had with the GOAT in comparison to the amount of time that Andy Reid has had with the most likely next GOAT, their Super Bowls kind of line up. Um, as far as the amount of time that they were there before winning those first 3.
yeah,
I think Kansas City is en route to a dynasty, if not already in the middle of one. But the other thing about it is, Andy Reid has had lackluster teams that he was still able to put in a winning situation. Andy Reid might not have gotten the ring before Patty, but if you look at what Bill Belichick has done after Tom, Andy Reid has never done that with any team. So are we on the verge now of talking about Andy Reid and that GOAT coach conversation? Or I know, depending on like how you look at coaches, you kind of you may add up different things to come up with your reasoning behind, who's the GOAT or one of the GOAT. But I think that Andy Reid has done something that several of these other coaches didn't do, which is succeed with lackluster teams versus everything falling apart when their main man left or retired, whatever the case may be. So, what's your outlook as far as Andy Reid is concerned? And how much longer do you think he ends up staying around? Because he's no spring chicken. Does he stay around long enough to be the GOAT, or is he already in the conversation right now?
I give him another 3 to 5 years, I think, to where he
Okay.
go. I don't see more. I don't think I see more than 5 for sure.
Because what is he,
Uh,
like 62, 63, something like that?
yeah, I think he's 64. I want to say
64.
64.
Okay.
I want to say 64. So I don't see him at least no more than 5. Um, but 3. But one thing I give respect to him is that of course, we know he had receivers like Tyreek Hill and Terrell Owens. And then if you want to kind of fast forward like Jeremy Maclin, Deshaun Jackson, these guys, but this guy would take a team and put him in the Super Bowl with NFC Championship with James Thrash and Todd Pinkston as his, wide receivers. Like last year, Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS. Of course, you have Travis Kelce. Of course, you can't take that away. But to do more with less is you got to put to some type of like, okay, well, he got to be up there in the GOAT conversation. Of course, I think it's always going to be Bill. I don't think nobody's going to catch Bill, to be honest with you, as far as GOAT conversation. But I think if he get to 5 and Bill has 6 as a head coach, Bill got 6 or 7 as a head coach.
He got 6.
6. He got 6. Yeah, 6. I'm thinking Brady got 7, but he got the one with
Brady
Tampa.
got
Yeah. So if he gets to 5, you might be like, okay, well, 2 of these. You know what? I got to take it back too, though, because in Bill Belichick's defense, even though he did more or less, Tom Brady in the first like 2 or 3 Super Bowls, Tom Brady wasn't the Tom Brady we know now. The defense,
that's true,
did carry the first 2, maybe.
Defense,
I know 2 for sure, maybe the third one. So the defense was the architect between it, and then now you put Tom Brady with it in his mind, and you take off. So I think he can get the second.
But and this is weird because you fighting for Belichick and I'm fighting for Andy Reid. That's just weird. But here's the other thing to think about. What if, and I know this is a big what if Chicago had drafted Patty and then Reid got whomever else? Does Patty end up being Patty? Like a big part of Patty being Patty, in my humble opinion, is Andy Reid. I don't think Bill Belichick had much to do at all with Tom being Tom. So that's the other like Bill Belichick has created defensive guys. Andy Reid has created Patrick Mahomes. He created the next GOAT. So that's the other thing that I'm looking at. So there's a lot of quarterbacks that have been placed in adverse situations that never became what they could have been. I honestly, humbly feel like Patrick Mahomes could have been another statistic had he not been put into the situation with an offensive-minded coach that knew how to bring him along at the right time, the right way, so that his confidence wouldn't be shot. I don't think Patrick Mahomes would be a household name had a Chicago type of team drafted him versus Kansas City doing it. So there's that factor as well.
I got you. Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. I think Patty still would be like on the wouldn't be where he is now because you still have to win rings to be put into that situation. I don't think Chicago or something he does that, but I still think he still would probably be on the pars of maybe like Deshaun Watson or like maybe how people view Josh Allen or so as far as like the talent wise, but still haven't like done anything with it. So like you said, it's pretty much like another statistic, like, okay, this is another good quarterback, but what have you pretty much done? You know what I'm saying? So I get that. Yeah. So I think if he win 2 more, you can start talking about it.
Now let's continue down this GOAT conversation. Where are we ranking Patty all time at this point? I know he's young in his career, but where in your eyes, where do you see Patty all time at this point?
It's weird because he only been starting 6 years, but I got him the 3rd best quarterback ever right now.
3rd?
I got him 3rd best ever.
Tom Brady, Joe Montana,
and then
Pat.
Then Pat right now.
Okay.
Because if you look at Joe Montana, not necessarily being 4-0 in the Super Bowl, like look at his TD to interception ratio, and of course he played with Jerry Rice, but like somebody told me that today, but I was like, he played with Jerry Rice, but people saying Travis is the GOAT of tight end. So both of them playing with GOAT type level pass catchers.
True.
Bill Walsh started to me like the West Coast offense thing. So Andy Reid kind of transformed his more. So they coach great offensive minds and stuff like that. But they had Mariucci for one of them who won that. No, that was Steve Young. I'm sorry. Had Steve Young. That was Steve Young who won that championship. Yeah, but Joe Montana, in the playoffs, the Super Bowls, man, his quarterback rating, all that stuff is immaculate, man. Like, it's immaculate, bro. Like, so I still got him under that. And my GOAT conversations go the same for every team sport. Like I don't have a
Okay.
criteria for football. I don't have a criteria for basketball. Now, if you're talking like tennis or something, that's a single golf that your own single person sport may be different. But I also look at it as, and like I told everyone, maybe I got to do some more research on Joe Montana because I look at it and say, if you're supposed to be the guy, you have an adequate team to perform, and you lose in those big situations, can I look at you and say, well, you could have done a little bit better, or you part of the reason why we lost? I don't know that much for like Joe Montana. I know for Patrick Mahomes, to where we played the Bengals in the AFC Championship the year the Bengals lost to the Rams. We were up 21-3 in the second quarter. And we ended up losing 27-24. We only mustered a field goal because you threw an interception to where I was even like, where are you throwing the damn ball like? And then you couldn't move the ball. Like, so I looked at it and like, these guys are open. They're hitting the ground. You overthrown it. So I can look at Mahomes and say, all right, you all this, but you could have played better for us to win that game. Like every Super Bowl I watched Tom Brady in a little bit, he didn't lose the game. He didn't take it over, but he didn't lose it. He did what he had to do to win the game. And then the ones that he lost, like he still played pretty decent. Like he threw a touchdown to Randy Moss with how many seconds left, and they let Eli Manning go down and get something. Like, so
facts. That wasn't on him.
So yeah, so I was like, if I could look at it and say you had the team and it was on you, I don't know if Joe Montana to do that as of yet. So if he don't got that blemish on his record, I guess I gotta wait till Pat get a few more. And then I say, okay, well, maybe he can jump you. But as of right now, because of that reason, I got him third.
He got time. He got time. But that's actually the same list that I have right now as far as my Mount Rushmore or my GOAT conversation as far as quarterbacks is concerned.
So let me ask that before you do that. Let me ask that then. If we have those three in Mount Rushmore, you had to add one more. Who would be the fourth person?
Good question. I would probably say, man, who do I go with? Honestly, it's a tie with a few different people, and honestly, for that fourth person, I'm not even necessarily looking at their total number of championships or lack thereof, because I'm a big Dan Marino fan. He don't have any Super Bowls, so I'm a big Dan Marino fan. I'm also a big Peyton Manning fan.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of a oxymoron being a Patriots fan, but Peyton was one of those, like it was like he was the guy
Yeah.
until you got to, he was basically the Shanahan of quarterbacks, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like he was the guy until the playoffs, and then but a lot of times it wasn't his fault either. But Peyton Manning, in my humble opinion, is one of the best quarterbacks ever. So for me, um, in this guy, I don't like him, but I got to give him his props. Aaron Rodgers,
Yeah.
like he's the reason why Aaron Rodgers is such a disappointment is because he's so good. Like if he wasn't so talented, I wouldn't be as upset about the lack of success in the postseason. And he has a ring, so
Yeah.
for me, it's a tie between Aaron Rodgers, Dan Marino, Peyton Manning, as far as who would be that fourth guy on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks. But Brady, Joe Montana, and already Patty, who's still playing, they're already up there for sure. Who would be your fourth guy?
I'm stuck between Peyton and Elway, between that
Okay,
fourth.
okay,
But I'm leaning more
that's
towards
another
Peyton.
guy. Yeah, Elway.
Yeah. And then like I don't want to disrespect like the Terry Bradshaws and those people who won those rings and stuff, but
I didn't watch them enough to be able for them
yeah,
to be in my like if I said any of those names, it would just be based on what I've heard.
yeah, agreed.
So yeah, it's
Agreed.
a little bit, different for me as far as those names are concerned. It's no different than when you ask me, in the GOAT conversation, the NBA. I hear you when you say Kareem. I hear you when you say Bill. He got 11 championships. If you're gonna give it to Jordan because he got 6, then why wouldn't you give it to Bill? Like I hear it, but I never saw them play, so I can't really in all honesty, say that they're the best. I would just be going off of stats or off of what I see on paper, not really having an understanding of what happened in the game, if that makes sense. Not to mention that most of their games weren't televised in the way that we see it done today. So nobody was able to, unless you were a hometown person that went to games, you weren't
Yeah.
actually able to see it like you can see, when it started back in like the 80s and 90s and stuff like that, when you can pretty much watch just about every game. So, you know, and we can actually go ahead and parlay over to basketball. It was NBA All Star Weekend. Go ahead and give me your overall take on the weekend, and then I have some specific questions that I want to get your take on.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how I felt about the weekend was a -5 of the All-Star weekend. the most exciting
Okay,
thing, the most exciting thing for the entire weekend to me was when Steph was shooting against Sabrina
Sabrina, I
Ionescu.
agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
that was the
I
most
agree.
exciting thing to me the entire weekend. I was so upset that I sat and watched. I waited on that game. It was like, yo, what you doing now? I'm gonna watch the All Star game tonight, or whatever. And an hour into it, I was like, bro, I waited all day to watch this, bro. Like, are you serious? Slam dunk contest was horrible. Like, I don't know what
Yo,
was
so I
going
got a specific question about that, but let me actually piggyback off of what you just said. Is it time for the NBA to do what the NFL did and get
on.
rid of the game itself because the players just don't really care that much about it? And it shows in the gameplay, and just kind of figure out another fun way that fans are going to be interested in and players will be interested in as well, as far as celebrating the all-stars and just kind of getting rid of the game itself, and then we'll parlay over to the dunk contest to wrap things up.
Yeah, I think it's time to do that. I think it's
Okay.
time to get rid of it. The Pro Bowl, to turn into flag football, and that's
Right.
actually people actually like it because of how
It's
like the
more
flag.
entertaining.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, they fun, it's more human. Like this is something I did last weekend. And, like I
Right,
played
I
flag
can do
football.
that. Yeah.
So it shows the people being like not like kids, but just joyful, not as serious as playing like football. One
I wouldn't mind
suggestion I
seeing
got.
like a horse competition or something like that. Like a,
Oh yeah, agreed.
something that whatever they just did, unless it's dunking,
Yeah,
like you got to take that out of the horse competition.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah, for
basically
sure.
make it to where as whatever they do is something that a fan can attempt to do the same. I think it would just make it a little bit more interesting. But
I
I
think
mean
what
to
they,
cut you, which was
no problem. Yeah, I think what they should do is how they used to have and I don't remember them doing it this year. How they used to do like the Rising Stars game to where the
yeah,
USA Rising Stars and the
versus the
International Rising
world.
Stars they play.
Yeah,
I think they just need to scrap the East and West thing altogether and just
okay,
make it as because right now it's the best time you can do it because the international players are
they
if you name your
balling.
top 5 or 10, might be half and half right now.
Yeah,
So I think you take say the best 12 from the USA, the best 12 from the world, and let them play for bragging rights, and then like incentivize it because now instead of 24 spots being available, pretty much only 12.
yeah,
So that may make them play harder in the regular season or whatever. Whoever win the USA versus the world, you keep a tally, I guess. And it's not something that you can run all the way through, but wow, like the like the international players, which you got Giannis, you got Luka, you got Jokic, and if Embiid decides to play with the US, even though he got a citizenship with the international team, like you got them guys, like so, it could be a competitive game. Other than that, like you said, I just think they need to. Man, no, this is it right here.
okay.
Bring back rock and jock basketball to where the MTV, the way they used to shoot it from 90 quarters from half court. Man, do something, man. Like I don't know what the remedy is, but they got to do something.
I feel you on that. Now, all right, so this dunk contest, man. Okay, I got two takes. For one, I don't use the term reverse racism, but it's a little bit of prejudice going on here because ain't no way you thought the dunks that Jalen Brown was doing was anywhere close to what Mac McClung was doing. And not only that, but I feel as if Mac McClung was, I kind of feel like they're exploiting him. Nobody else
Yeah.
wants to be in the dunk contest. He's the best dunker, but he's not even on the team. He's in the G League.
Yeah.
So you're essentially exploiting a G League player to keep the competition around. He's won the last 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I don't know what the judges were looking at, but Jaylen Brown's dunks were as basic can get.
Yeah.
I didn't understand how it was even a competition. And then it got to the point where it was like, okay, you really showing your hand if you let Jaylen win. You gotta give McClung his props. He gotta
Yeah.
win the competition, or we can just go ahead and get rid of the dunk contest too. So that's kind of how I felt about the whole dunk contest. Like a couple of years ago, we had a couple of guys come in, they were jumping over cars, they were doing all this. They kind of put the dunk contest back on the map, and then everybody was like, all right, yeah, I'm good. We're not gonna do it again. And then I mean, honestly, at this point, if you're gonna have a dunk contest, have the NBA All-Stars be the judge, and just have dudes like McClung, who actually shouldn't even be in the NBA. I don't even think he'd be in the G League if it wasn't for the fact that he can dunk.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, but have them judge it, and then have back in the day when there was no YouTube and all of that, it was different. Because even a basic dunk was a oh my gosh type of moment. But
Yeah.
I can go to YouTube and find in 5 minutes 10 dudes that can dunk better than all the dudes that I saw other than Mac.
Right.
So I think we're at a point now where we're gonna have to switch things up, make it more about entertainment, but just involve the all stars versus it having to be the all stars involved in everything. And they don't want to get hurt, and they don't want to, it's a lot of nuances to that as well. You saw LeBron, hurt his ankle. He's no spring chicken, but he's not going to forego the All-Star game when named an All-Star. So that's another thing. Like you can kind of have some people in precarious situations. So I really believe that as far as the dunk contest is concerned, bring in the best dunkers in the world. We know who they are based on YouTube. Bring them in, let them compete against each other, and let the actual NBA players be the judges versus these guys that a lot of your younger NBA fans don't even know who they are. Like we're kind of in that age range where we know who some of the judges are based on name value, and we might have seen a couple of them earlier on in our childhoods, but a lot of the fans don't even know who these guys are nowadays. So
Agree.
that was kind of my take as far as the dunk contest was concerned.
What they have to do with that, and what I was telling somebody the other day was the CBA and the TV deals and stuff get bigger, allow you to incentivize the players, but the All-Star checks still the same. So,
Facts. Facts.
back in the day, if you only making, like, say in the early 98s or 2000 or something or whatever, you ain't making 40 mil a year. You might be making 11, 12, 10, whatever it is, and you get a half a mil or a mil. You be like, okay, well, that's cool. But when you're making 40, 50 mil, you don't care about $1 million check. So what I think they do for that is, like, you can't tell me if you said, okay, well, this is what we're gonna do. Because I seen John Morant put something like a Twitter thing when they asked him about it. Even Zion last year was saying he was thinking about it. You take those dunkers and say, listen, first place winner, you get 5 mil or whatever it is, something that's necessarily going to keep, as the TV deals inflate the salary cap.
Mm-hmm.
The All-Star game get inflated also. So if
Right.
you're to the point that we're okay, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it, because I thought the dunk contest was saved when Aaron Gordon and Zach LaVine did it. I said,
Right.
okay, well, now there's some notable names, more people are going to start doing it. No, that was terrible. That was totally wrong on that. But I think if you pay them a little more, and the devil's advocate is, they already making 40 million a year. How much more you want to pay them? But if you want something out of them, if you want to change it, that's how the game is today. So I think they
But
need to
see,
raise the incentive price.
that's life changing money to some of these YouTube dunkers though, and they better at
Yeah,
it.
yeah, for
You know
real.
what I'm saying? So like
Yeah,
you gonna have people coming out the woodworks. If you do it, Matt McClung, you offer him, he'll be in the dunk contest for the next 10 years. You give him
next
5
10 years.
mil because
But
that ain't G League money ain't NBA money. You know what I'm saying?
that's what I'm saying. Keep him out, but you can't keep him out because you got to let him defend it if he want to come back.
Correct.
But if you put people like Zion, Ja. Who else is like a crazy dunker? Like I ain't gonna get Zach LaVine no more because his knees and stuff messed up. But if you get like, because a lot of things too, we also looked at it as, oh, one of my favorite basketball players. He actually in the dunk contest this year. So that was the allure to it. He was like, oh, I like Michael Jordan, but oh, he in it. Like we know he's a great basketball player, but he gonna drop. Man, listen, Vince Carter, man. Like I think the best. This maybe the. I don't know. The Aaron Gordon Levine is up there, but me personally, best individual one, the Vince Carter one, right? We all know he can hoop. We know he's a great type of player with that nostalgia around it. I think, and put a bigger purse behind it. I think that boosts it back up. But I don't know what they're gonna do. They got to figure it out.
I feel like Vince Carter had the best dunk ever, and it wasn't even a dunk contest. He jumped over a 7-footer in that Olympic game, jumped over the Russian guy. Like he literally jumped over
Yeah,
a 7-footer in a game, and the points counted for
right.
something. Like that was crazy. Like when I saw that from Vince Carter, that took it over the top for me. Like that.
Yeah,
But it's a different mind frame nowadays too, as far as basketball is concerned, because it's all about the money. You don't have your, love of the game for pride, for
right.
namesake, for it's not really that much of that anymore. So, but they definitely got to do something because the All-Star weekend is really just a big get together. It's just a party now. It ain't got nothing to do with basketball no more. So
That's it.
we'll see
Agree.
how they work that out next year though. But that pretty much wraps it up for this week. Next week, hopefully, we'll have the whole crew back, and Vander can defend his boys. Look, don't think he ain't gonna have to have a conversation about what happened with his squad when he's able to get back on. So we'll make sure. Hopefully, that happens next week. But until then, we out, and make sure you tell the truth.
All right, have a good one.